All right, the 2.5 live stream was pretty lit, but one of the things I want to talk about today is going to be how YAE MIKO is going to be a character that's going to fit into the current meta, and where I think she's going to be as far as team compositions and how you're going to build her. Let's jump into it. All right, so I had a lot of recordings from these about it yesterday, and one of the things I wanted to talk about was YAE MIKO. So YAE MIKO as a character kind of looks like a sub DPS character. Based on the playthrough and the information that we have from the MiHoYo livestream, what I can see from this character is that she doesn't seem to be a character that's going to be reliant on normal and charge attacks. The reason I can kind of say that is because when you see the character's animation sets flow through, you see a lot more elemental skill and elemental burst combination. And it seems very similar to the way that Diluc would play out in the triple E cast kind of way, while also going a character that's going to be using a lot of elemental skill cast and then leading the field. Now, when MiHoYo was describing her elemental skill, they did describe a chain ability, and this chain ability allows for 3 totems to be placed out in quick sequence that will do a small amount of on-field damage, while when you leave the field will do pulsate damage off-field. It does seem to be like kind of a radius type thing, so it will do damage inside of a set radius. And then her elemental burst seems like an ability that was going to just do a big nuke based upon the amount of elemental skills that you've cast before, and also reset duration so that you can just recast again. So the idea is that you use your elemental skill 3 times, and then use elemental burst, and then use elemental skill 3 more times. So that's the character's kind of overall playthrough as far as how you would use her. It's very similar to, again, who I said had Diluc as well as Fischl kind of put together with the 3 E's and then the elemental burst. The difference being is you can pass 3 E's afterward, and of course you have no normal attacks thrown in the mix in the middle, kind of like a Battle Buddy ribbon. Now, because this character is a sub DPS and most likely going to be a character that's going to use off-field damage, not on-field damage, this is a very powerful character, and these are one of my favorite types of characters inside of Genshin Impact. The problem is how you're going to use this character inside of team compositions going forward. What we know about Genshin Impact is that certain characters have certain roles. Some characters are really good at auto-attacking on the field while providing energy for the team, or just doing auto-attacks in order to deal some damage while healing your team, whatever it may be, or some characters that just use an elemental skill or an elemental burst and then either boost the team or of course just do damage. For example, sub DPS characters that are like Bennett, where they're actually supporting your team, provide an attack boost to your entire team, whereas characters like Zhangling just do damage and actually do not provide any value, which is more akin to what YAE MIKO does. Now, a character like Beidou is a character that relies on other characters on the field to do normal or charge attacks in order to trigger her ability, and she has to land a hit in order for that to happen. But a character like Fischl does not really rely on those types of abilities to happen, and is just more of an off-field damage character, which is where she's going to kind of fall into team compositions. My thought process is that she will fulfill the role of a 5-star Fischl on team compositions. And the reason that I think that she's going to be a 5-star Fischl is because she has, again, elemental skill casts that provide off-turn damage and an elemental burst that actually provides a nuke. So essentially she becomes a better, more awesome upgraded version of Fischl because, again, Fischl's duration on her elemental skill is quite short, and I believe it only lasts for about 10 seconds, whereas YAE MIKO may last for a little bit longer depending on how they want to do things. And their totems out in the open of the field, and there's 3 of them, so I assume that they'll probably do about the same amount of damage as Oz or whatnot, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but there's 3 of them and they may attack at the same rate. The other issue is, of course, that Fischl, of course, has a massive battery, and if YAE MIKO, of course, does provide the same amount of energy on those particles that coming your way, that makes it YAE MIKO will be, of course, an upgraded version of Fischl in 2 separate ways. The third thing, of course, is that Fischl's elemental burst does 400% damage, and seeing how we said that YAE MIKO is going to be a character that's going to boost her elemental burst damage based upon the amount of elemental skill cast, we can kind of assume that her elemental burst damage will be much higher than this. And the reason we can see that is because we have other characters that actually provide boost to your team that are 4-star characters with almost 800% overall damage, and I assume that YAE MIKO will have something similar as far as damage values going to be provided to your team from the connecting amount of elemental skills being boosted for your ultimate. It means the most free-to-play accessible team that exists in Genshin right now that is going to be the best overall team for most players, and Fischl is the character in question being replaced, is going to be the Taser team. And the Taser team right now is a team that relies on Sucrose for using auto attacks while using Beidou and Xingqiu to provide damage reduction to your team composition and a small amount of healing, as well as also providing a nice attack bonus where you're using it whenever you use an attack, you get the Xingqiu's ultimate burst to do damage, while as Beidou will provide more elemental burst damage on top of it. The idea is that Fischl being replaced here would actually have a character that will have totems in a certain area, and seeing how sucrose can group to a certain area, that won't be an issue because you'll be able to do all your damage in one location. These characters, but essentially the idea of the team composition relies on using a Xingqiu to get your elemental burst up, getting particles back whenever you need them, their elemental skill, dropping an elemental burst, switching over to sucrose, and then just doing your full send. If you could throw in your sucrose first and you wanted to boost out your other characters, you could. I usually just swirl the hydro because I like the Xingqiu damage, but if you wanted to boost out other types of damage, you can do that too. This team also is really flexible because it allows you to switch anytime you want without actually having any issues between characters for your team compositions. And because you're using an electro resonance, you actually don't have to worry about energy recharges often, because with electro resonance, you actually get your energy back much more quickly. And the nice thing about this team composition is because the energy recharge is so high, the damage actually flows out in quite an easy fashion. And as you can see, the Perpetual Mechanicus Ray just falls over. This team composition can actually utilize a Sucrose with a Hakushin Ring, or you can use the Sacrificial Fragments depending on how lucky you've got in your summons, and it has a lot of free-to-play accessible actual weapons. You can use a Wolf Gravestone and Beidou, but if you don't have it, of course, the Akomaru, the Luxurious Sea Lord, Serpent Spine, even Rain Slasher work out as far as weapons you can use. And if you wanted to use it, you can of course use the Inazuma Craftable weapon or any other 5-star weapon in component in order to use it for Beidou. She would just rely on an emblem set for doing damage because she's going to be primary damage that you're going to be dealing. You can also transition that emblem set over to Xingqiu if you want to and give him a 4-piece Noblesse set, but as you can see, I'll use a 2-piece Hydro set because I really didn't care that much. You can use a 4-piece Noblesse set on Xingqiu, or using a 4-piece 2-piece Hydro, 2-piece Noblesse, or 4-piece Emblem, depending on which character you want to do the damage between Xingqiu as well as Beidou. Which leaves the question, what is going to be the artifact set in question for the next character, and that will be YAE MIKO. The most likely artifact set is going to be a mixture artifact set with 2-piece Gladiator as well as 2-piece on Thundering Fury. This will provide a 15% electro damage bonus as well as an attack percentage bonus. Now, there are some rumors out in the Ethersphere that say, hey, you know what, there actually might be some kind of other scaling for YAE MIKO, in which case you would probably use that artifact set that boosts that specific substat in order to boost the character. Then you probably know what that substat is in comparison. The other option for YAE MIKO, of course, would be using a 4-piece emblem set in order to boost the damage of your ultimate if the character relies more on her ultimate versus using an elemental burst. If the character relies more on her ultimate than using elemental skills. You could also argue that a 4-piece Noblesse set would be a really good setup for this character because she doesn't really have a true artifact set, and that would actually allow her to do damage, but boosting damage on the team while not actually having to worry about her own damage as much. But even your 5-star waifu, a 4-piece Noblesse set, does seem kind of problematic because it does feel like your waifu is doing less damage. The other option, of course, if you're okay with that, is of course using a 4-piece middle of the set, using a 4-piece Noblesse set on either Xingqiu or Beidou, depending on which character you want to do the damage. And of course, if you're using a 4-piece middle set, since the elemental skills will probably be doing damage off field, you will be able to get the double bonus for YAE MIKO. Of course, it is a set that does give you HP percentage, so you don't really get any damage bonus on her specifically. The only other option that I can think of is the Thunder Soother set, and this set is a set that allows you to do damage if the enemies are affected by Electro for a large amount of time. And yes, the set does work out. However, it won't work out in all situations, but if you are affecting them with Electro by keeping Electro charge on them a large amount of the time, this will work out with high Electro application, which just seems like it's going to be a non-issue for character like YAE MIKO. For weapon allocation, she does have her new 5-star weapon that's going to be coming out, and I think that will be the probable best weapon for her. And supporting weapons across the board are going to allow for you to use different sets and artifacts on whatever characters you want. But the only other weapon that I thought would be interesting for her would be the Sacrificial Fragments, because it increases the elemental skill cast unless you're capped at 3 on the amount of elemental skill cast, which I think you might be. So the other option, of course, would be Widzith for a free-to-play option for what you can do for YAE MIKO, and I think that would be the best overall prep weapon for her that I can think of if you are fully free to play. Now, if you are thinking that she's not going to be a crit-based character, the other options, of course, are Solar Pearl. This does boost elemental skill damage and as well as elemental burst damage after one normal attack. So if you're a somewhat paid player, the Solar Pearl does seem like a really good option for YAE MIKO, and I will be trying out an R5 version of this for her because I am kind of curious on how her elemental skill and elemental burst kind of wake up for this, because this is the best overall weapon that's going to be boosting in a balanced set that for any character that's not a charge attack character. This weapon really hasn't been used on any character in Genshin so far because every other character in Genshin that is a Catalyst character has some kind of a component to charge attack. So this seems like the overall best weapon for her because she's not a character that, from what I can tell, relies on charge attack. Because it essentially is a 40% elemental damage bonus for after you use the normal attack or an elemental skill or elemental burst. In general, that also gives you crit rate. So it seems like, again, the overall best weapon. But if you're looking for the biggest numbers on your YAE MIKO, it's probably going to be from the Widzith. You have 5-star option components with with the Skyward Atlas as well as the Lost Bird. Don't really seem like great options in general. Skyward Atlas is a better weapon for overall stat gain and damage if you have it at higher refines, but of course the Solar Pearl is probably the weapon of choice for most players. If you are fully free to play, the Black Leva Gate is probably not the best way to go. I've refined 5 this weapon, and I can tell you that it is significantly worse than the Widzith, and it doesn't really provide that much value. And the other 5-star catalysts in Genshin are not really that great in comparison. I've also seen Fischl being used in certain teams like Zhao teams in order to provide elemental particles to the Zhao so that you can get the damage in. And I have seen this at times, but I wasn't really impressed with the way that it could be used. Because looking at the overall damage that you get from the Zhao and the energy particle gain, you can see that you get a very small amount of energy back. The main character I want to talk about, of course, for her, it would be Xiangling. The reason Xiangling is so important is because Xiangling is the current god of Genshin when it comes to free-to-play. Now, the current overall best spot setup for Xiangling is going to be something where you use Xiangling and Kazuha in order to boost elemental damage, and of course, then use her elemental burst to then provide damage to the team, and then you would use a character like Fischl in order to be like some kind of off-field damage inclusion to get your extra damage. And this allows you to do elemental skills on the side while also providing overloads. Now you would have to weigh this damage against, of course, using the actual damage, which is vaporized a lot of the time, in order to use this team. And this team does work out. It's just more of a fun team rather than a team that's going to be the highest possible damage. The last tile team that I think is going to be reliant on this is going to be some type of Beidou and Yunjin team. And then this is another free-to-play friendly field that you can actually use with the Hakushin Ring. So this team composition, I think, is going to flow out in a way that's going to provide a lot of damage to your team while also providing tankiness and protection and giving you an elemental boost on 2 different types of characters. You're getting an elemental boost on a character like Akomi, where she's going to get her elemental boost to herself, and another character that's going to be getting an elemental boost, which is going to be from the Hakushin Ring. Now this allows for a lot of different boosts to be popped out simultaneously, getting a lot of damage coming toward the enemy, and of course this then would provide a very high tank team while doing damage to the enemy in a fashion similar to the Sucrose Taser team. You can also use the healing set bonus on Kokomi, which is very free to play friendly and very easy to get. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. That's what I think it's gonna happen for YAE MIKO in the current state of the game on team compositions and how she's gonna actually fit into teams. Let me know what you guys think about her in the comment section down below. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.